I recently replayed Deltarune. One, because I was bored, and two, because I want to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's for all the lore we're about to get in Chapter 5. And I, for one, am starving for Deltarune content. And making theories is the only thing keeping me sane. So I'm gonna share them with you. This is my Deltarune questions and theories. Let's talk about Chris. What does Chris want? Why does Chris want? Well, we know that Chris, the caged dreamer, is in cahoots with the Roaring Knight, who may or may not be Carol Holiday. We just don't know why. It's my understanding that Chris is a troubled young teen with a potentially violent past that they're, at the very least, ashamed of or running away from. Socially awkward, quirky, not very outgoing. Wait, was this about Chris or me? Malevolent? It's hard to say. We know that Dess's disappearance is the catalyst for this entire game. It's when Nazgul lost his job and both families drifted apart externally and internally. So, what happened to Des? And what does Chris have to do with it? Did Chris kill Des? Why haven't we seen Papyrus? Did I file my taxes yet? All valid questions, but something I don't see a lot of people mention is that corkboards make Chris uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I associate corkboards with piecing together evidence for a larger conspiracy or crime. And Chris, now hear me out, is trying to repress a memory that we only know about through Chapter 4's Egg Room. I think Chris knows more about what happened to Des than Asgore. And this is all going to come to a head very, very soon. Let's talk more about Chris being a potential murderer thing. Noel tells us about Chris's antics as a child. They imply that the soul, or us, has been controlling Chris for some time, but may have been dormant for some time up until the events of Deltarune. Because it seems like people are saying that Chris is only recently not acting like themselves. I don't have proof of this, but we know that the Dreamer family adopted Chris, who is a human with a human soul. So, who are Chris's birth parents? Does every human soul just actively rebel against them? And if the answer is no and this isn't Chris's soul, whose is it? Maybe I'm just going on a tangent and asking too many questions we can't really answer yet. But we shouldn't entirely dismiss the idea that Chris took someone else's soul, or at least did something to be exiled. And I haven't really come across any dialogue that suggests Chris is orphaned and I'm just talking shit right now, but I guess we'll see. With all this in mind, why is Chris helping the mayor with what I can only assume is finding her daughter? Because I mean, that's like my best guess. Up until the disappearance of Des, I don't really get the impression that Carol, the career politician with a loving family, would be in the business of bringing about a dark apocalypse. My theory, look, I really don't want to say it, but what if Des is dead, right? Alright, look, I know, I don't really want to believe it either, because this is a character I really like without having even met them yet, but let's face it, she might be dead, somehow. Gregoire, you really love talking about murder. Do you really think this game would go that dark? Yes. 100%. And as some of you might know, the dust of monsters can be brought back to life in very specific dark worlds. So, if the knight isn't Carol, which I want to say it is, but that just seems too on the nose for Tricky Toby Fox, we should consider that the knight is some form of reincarnation of Death's dust. Also, it's going to be real awkward if the knight is Carol because I've invested so much in those Desreal comic dubs. But anyway, it's very possible that Carol's using this whole roaring thing to find Des. And this little text, where Chris promises something to the voice behind the phone, which people are pretty split on who it is. I'm also kind of split because this sounds like something you would say to a friend. But at the same time, it's so hard to deny that it's not Carol when Carol, who historically comes home late, just so happens to come home the minute Chris dials up this phone person. But the fact that the text box is inconsistent with the Weird Route box is also really messing with my head, man. Get out of my head, man! Here's the thing. It's my impression that Chris does seem to genuinely like Susie and Ralsei. So all of their actions so far, I don't think are the product of, hey, I'm evil now, we're gonna do this thing. As much as the mantle holder wants us to believe that's what's going on here. I think Chris is probably reluctant to go along with all this. And I mean, I'm just really curious as to what their plan is for the Titans. Like that seems like that'd be a major holdup. Let's plan this out again, kind of setback. But since I'm flat out of ideas as far as this theory goes, let's talk about TV World since I just mentioned the RAM. So seriously, what the fuck was the deal with all this? We know that Chris made a deal with Tenna to keep the fun getting busy. Why would Chris ask this of Tenna if the knight, who they are in a strange partnership with, had already asked Tenna to do the same thing? Who got to Tenna first? Is this highly unappreciated evidence for Chris being the knight? God, I really hope not. I dismissed that theory a while ago. We don't know who got to Tenna first, but I still want to think that maybe there was something else going on with Chris that we don't know about. I mean, it's possible that they just suck at coordinating. But nevertheless, what made the most sense to me was that this was all just a big plot to slash Toriel's tires and then draw Undyne into the Dark World to kidnap her for the next phase of whatever their plan is. But what the fuck was all this? Who's Eram? How do they know Chris? How do they know Friend? What is Friend? Well, I think Friend is some kind of agent of Gaster, but don't quote me on that. I'm still working on my theories for the bonus room. As of right now, I think they were a way for the Soul, or us, to dig up more about Chris. Like, Chris doesn't want to be back here. We put Chris back here. Because the Soul can and will push the boundaries of what it should and shouldn't know. And what it should and shouldn't do. It just so happens that this incursion specifically leads us to learn more about Chris's less than normal tendencies and their connection to Tenna and the Knight. But anyways, I'm just kind of confused as to why they took Undyne. I don't know, maybe it's not interchangeable, you know? Because I thought that they just needed a sacrifice, it didn't really matter who. But if Chris is part of all this, then maybe they had some objection to Toriel being the sacrifice? Because I feel like if the Knight wanted to, they probably could have taken Toriel too. I mean, it does matter who they take. Like, I'm pretty sure it has to be somebody who corresponds with the signs. These people being Undyne, the mayor, and... well, the Deltarune symbol could suggest Father Alvin and Toriel. I'm gonna go with the latter. Don't get me wrong, I think this guy plays a bigger role in all this at some point. I think there's a good chance Asgore knows the code to the shelter too, but I don't want to make too many guesses about him since we're like about to find out a whole bunch about him. But I think whatever happened with these three had something to do with that shelter. I feel like Asgore would have gone back to get evidence for... Wait! I just had an even crazier theory. That kind of makes sense, if you hear me out. So, explaining a disappearance without a trace is hard as a police chief. Right? Right? Can we agree on that? Cool. I've been thinking about the way Asgore speaks. At first, I didn't really know what to make of it. But he says that soon he's gonna show them all. That he's gonna prove something. But what? That he didn't deserve what happened to him? What if Asgore's been to a Dark World? Or at least knows of Dark Worlds? What if whatever happened to Des had something to do with the Dark World, and that's what has everybody so put off by him? Why he was fired, why he grew apart from his family. I think his inability to make it sound real and normal that he lost the mayor's daughter in a world where the pointy-headed say toothpaste and then boy and playing cards come out and shoot diamonds at you is what caused all this. What if the whole town just kind of thinks he's some whack job who failed to do his job? Because as much as we all find the chariot memes kind of funny, I haven't really gotten the impression that the town thinks he committed murder. So what's gonna happen? I mean, it's anybody's guess really, but I'll tell you what I want to see. The girl. At last was the girl. Noelle loves Susie. Birdley loves Susie. We all love Susie. And yet, we still don't know a whole lot about Susie yet. Like, not really. We have dialogue that hints at her perception of herself and her broken and twisted home. But she hasn't really opened up to Chris about it. And I'm hoping that this little teaser we got of Chapter 5 dialogue implies that Chris and Susie are going to have some kind of moment. That maybe this is both of their chances to open up a little bit about their past, and oh, Chris closed their eyes again. I guess that's that. I have a crazy, maybe not so crazy theory that Susie's going to keep whatever this is from happening via game mechanics. I think she's gonna keep a fight going eternally. I mean, at least that's the impression I got. Oh my god, she's gonna do a Sans! But I don't think that's coming in chapter 5 either. Nor is the hand thing that have I talked about the hand thing? Why are there so many hand metaphors? You're really freaking me out, Toby. You're making me think Chris is gonna get Luke Skywalker at some point. I can't promise anything, but if all these things come to pass, Deltarune will be a Class A example of game foreshadowing for years to come. And I probably missed a lot of things. I meant to yap about more specific interactions, weird route dialogue, and Chris's damage being linked to their true nature, but we're so close to chapter 5 that I think it's best if I just throw all these wacky tangents out there and then revisit them when we have more content. I hope you enjoyed, and consider subscribing. Helps me out, and it seems like I'm in the business of Deltarune lore these days, if that's what you want more of. So, till next time.
Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark.